Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us to launch Audiocraft Podcast Festival 2020. I'm really excited that you're all here with us online to celebrate Australian audio tonight. I'm Jess O'Callaghan. I'm Audiocraft's Festival Manager. Audiocraft are an Australian podcast organisation. We make podcasts through our agency and we host podcast events like the festival, which is I'd like to start tonight by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land I'm streaming to you from tonight, the Darug people. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge that this always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to everyone watching tonight, wherever you are. And I hope that if you're joining us for this launch and you're excited about our program, then you'll join us for the festival too, which is going to also be held online on a platform called Hopin. So thinking back to last year's launch where we were all smushed together, all these bodies, live bodies smushed together in a room, in a pub in Sydney. It's a really beautiful memory for me. I think about that launch a lot. It was a really fun night. And we can't recreate that this year. It's not the reality that we're living in. We can't all smush into that tiny room at a pub together. And we're not going to try. That's not the sort of festival that we're going to throw this year. Instead, we're really excited about embracing the parts of this that are really wonderful, the parts about everyone being in their own spaces. There's some really exciting opportunities there for programming, and the idea that you can all tune in from your own places where you usually make your podcasts to participate in the festival means that we can do things that we haven't been able to do before. And it also means that I know there's a lot of online events that are happening all over the world at the moment, so it's a very competitive space. You can tune into all sorts of things, but I've been staying awake at really strange hours of the evening to watch those events. So I hope that for Australian podcast makers, the fact that we're convincing people in all sorts of time zones to stay awake for us for once is going to be a really big drawing card. So soon I'll be able to tell you all about who those speakers are. That's what tonight's about. I'll be telling you who's coming. I'll also be talking to Leah Harris from Spotify, who are our lead partner this year, and sharing some of your stories that you sent in, the bits of audio that you're really excited about this year. We had some great responses to that call out. So I really want to thank you all for your support during this transition from offline to online. It's a weird year, and the Australian audio community and the community of audio makers that we've connected with all around the world have just been so supportive. I want to thank the Audiocraft team, Kate Montague, Jess Binneth, Bernadette Nguyen, Selena Shannon. They're amazing. Our festival speakers, who I cannot name yet, but I will very shortly. Our programming committee, Alex Mitchell, Tim Gray, Camilla Hannon, Jennifer Wong and Sana Kadar, who are incredible and came up with some amazing ideas when we thought that the festival would still be in person, and have really helped us transition to make it a wonderful day online. And our designer, Scott Burns, who created this wonderful festival design that you can see right next to my head here. And soon it'll be splashed all over the internet, I hope, in all of your social media feeds. So thank you to him as well. So thanks to our supporting partners, Audio-Technica, the CBAA, Hindenburg, Podbean, and the Community Media Training Organisation, and to our media partners, 2SER and Radio New Zealand, RNZ. We're really excited to have you on board and really grateful for their support through this transition. To our major partner, City of Sydney, who have supported us for years now. And to our lead partner, Spotify, we're really excited that to be working with you this year. And I'm sure everyone will be excited too once they hear about some of the speakers that Spotify are helping us bring to the festival. And so now the program. This year, when we gathered our programming committee, we gathered back in March for our programming meeting, and we just decided it was about a week before Australia went into lockdown, and we decided to suspend our disbelief about not having a real festival and just program as though we were all going to still be able to come together for what's my favorite day of the year. So we just pretended that it was still going to happen and programmed, and oh gosh, spoiler alert. We read through all of your EOI pictures and shared our thoughts about where audio was at, and what we wish for more of in the Australian audio community, and what we wish to hear more of in our headphones as well. And something that we kept coming back to, there's always sort of themes that come up every year from those discussions with our programming committee. And this year, something that we kept coming back to over and over again was the idea of expansion. So when you're working alone, editing audio or writing a script, you're usually in your own little world. You're sort of sitting at your workspace or, really zooming in on a specific part of audio. It feels like you're in your own little world, but hopefully making audio isn't a limiting experience, and being consumed by that world isn't a limiting experience. And when it feels really good and we're doing it really well, it can feel like a really expansive experience. And by sort of the soundscape of your mind sort of becomes bigger than the dark room you're working in. And I think for me, Audiocraft is always a day of looking outwards. And, usually a lot of us are working on our own or in really small teams, but Audiocraft is a day where we can look outwards and imagine a way of working and collaborating and being in the audio community that's bigger than myself and bigger than my own little audio making bubble. And that's the idea that we kept talking about at this programming meeting back in March, the idea of audio helping us expand outwards, and Audiocraft being a day where we can celebrate that expansion, whether it's in creativity or in community. And so very quickly, the idea of using sound and creativity to expand our world, within a week after that meeting, it took on a really different meaning. And I found myself really valuing these moments of connection through audio in a way that felt really different. Our physical worlds were kind of contracting and our online and audio world was expanding. And I turned to podcasts like Field Recording and Rumble Strip and Nature Track, and the soundscape that I was listening to was the landscape while I was in my home. And that landscape stretched all around the world. So even online, we maintained that spirit of expansion. That's what we're really trying to do with this program, of reaching out from our own spaces into others and thinking differently and in more ambitious ways about what audio can do and what our industry can be. And we asked you to share some of the moments in Australian audio this year that expanded how you think about audio making. And we got some really great responses. I was really excited to hear some of them. There has been really amazing audio made in Australia this year. So we're going to play some of the responses that we got, some of the contributions from our community. If you are planning on, popping some champagne with us, this video goes for about 4 minutes. So if you do want to, if you are knocking off for the day, you want to get a drink, maybe pop your headphones in. If you're listening on your phone or something, play this out of your speakers, head to the fridge now. This goes for about 4 minutes and it's all audio. So you can have a listen along and think about the moments that it surprised you or expanded how you think about audio this year. And if there are moments that aren't in this video, we'd really love it if you mentioned them in the comments and shared your own moment. I know not everyone got around to sending us a voice memo. So if there's moments that you'd like to celebrate and share, please do mention them in the comments on YouTube or Facebook and share your own moments while you have a listen. So I'm going to play this video for you.
An Australian podcast that surprised me in the past few months is a little podcast called In Moderation by a writer named James Ross Edwards. I like it because it's so locally specific, but totally exaggerated. And the funny thing is, I usually try to avoid podcasts like this, but it's just so well written, and it doesn't have high production flair or sound design. It's just well-crafted linguistics, and a well-told story will really take you places.
An Australian podcast series that surprised me in the past year was Inside the Big Day Out. In particular, episode 3, The Age of Innocence is Over, was a huge shock to me because I didn't know much about the death of Jessica McCarlick, and I was just in awe of the long-lasting effects this story has had on the music festival industry in general.
I really love how Bo Spearham sets up every episode of Frontier War Stories. He kicks off with a welcome to country, but he also talks about the past and his love of history and why he loves history. It's very thoughtfully done, and it helps ground you in every episode and provides just the right amount of context before the actual interview kicks off.
There are so many things that I love about Bo Spearham's podcast, Frontier War Stories, but something that really stood out to me was how important this project is. Not only is he helping audiences understand the real history, the often undocumented or uncelebrated history of Aboriginal experience via Indigenous voices, having Aboriginal artists and academics as guests, but also he talks about how integral the audio form is to the project itself. Not only helps others access these stories and the history, but it also harkens to their storytelling traditions. And I just think that's such important work.
Hey, you know, something I loved in podcasting this year was a podcast by this guy called Max Easton. It's called Barely Human. It has one of the most ugly tiles you will ever see, and he designed it that way because he's a genius. It's about music. He compares two different artists from sometimes different eras. Sometimes they juxtapose or comment on each other. Super clever, super dense. I'm nowhere near halfway through it. Heaps of episodes up there. If you're a music fan, if you like good writing, good mixing, definitely check it out. Max Easton, Barely Human, great stuff.
I think one of the most surprising and exciting pieces of Australian audio that I've heard is Bird's Eye View. Right from the beginning, you're kind of taken into the prison where these women are, but the sound design and the clinking of the gates and the incredible kind of sounds really transported me right into the place and dropped me in the world these women inhabit. And it was immediate and had me hooked from the start.
An audio story that surprised me recently was an unusual episode of Mike Williams and Friends. Punk in a Pandemic is a music mockumentary about a fictional all-woman band started up in a Toronto share house during lockdown. One of the members is Jess Shane, who's an audio producer, so it made sense that her and Mike concocted this plan to make up a band and a story, and then she recorded them mucking about being punk rock on guitars and mics. But then I wondered, maybe fucking carnage is real. So I went back and I listened again. I thought, maybe the band's real after all, and Mike Williams has just made a mockumentary about a real band. Because they've got some pretty good songs. I reckon in my teenage punk days, I would have gone to fucking Carnage gigs. I'm trying not to think about it too hard though, because I think it's part of the joy of the story.
Listening to an episode of Curtain Podcast created by Amy McQuire and Martin Hodgson. The podcast is a really important and informative exploration of Aboriginal incarceration told through the story of Kevin Henry, who was wrongfully incarcerated. It just makes me reflect on how powerful this medium can be as a tool to help create real change.
Thank you so much for everyone who shared their moments, surprising moments, special moments from Australian audio this year. We really loved hearing all of the moments that you sent in to us, and we're really grateful for you to be part of this launch. So now, who is coming to Audiocraft? I'm going to tell you about the program. So opening night will be a variety show streamed on Podbean on July 24th. So please plan to stay home that Friday night, the night before the festival. Wherever you are, you can join in the fun. It'll be hosted by Mike Williams and Farzad Raki, and it'll be one for the fans as well as the makers. So you can sit around the wireless with your whole family or your housemates, and it'll be a lot of fun. There'll be ways to get involved. There'll be fun things to listen to if you hate audience participation as well. So if it's legal and safe where you are, you might be able to invite some audio friends around for a listening party, but we're really trying to make a night that can be enjoyed alone, with a group, with podcast lovers and people who may be only casual fans. So that'll be a really fun night, and I'm really excited. Festival day itself kicks off with a recording activity, a recording session with Brain on Nature. So we're going to encourage you to, if you want to wake up bright and early and log on at 8 o'clock, say hi to all of the people who are interacting on Hopin, say good morning, and take your microphone for a walk, or your phone if you'd like to record something on your phone. Take it for a walk around the block, around your garden, or if you're still in your PJs, just chuck open your window and do a field recording in your house. We're going to be collecting all of those, and Olivia and Sarah from Brain on Nature are going to turn them into something for us all to listen to, which will be really wonderful. We'll be having 3 under the hood sessions with projects that collaborate really well, thinking about what makes a good collaboration and how you can work with all sorts of different people and different teams who maybe traditionally don't have audio backgrounds in your podcasts. So Bird's Eye View is one of those projects that we're really excited about having part of Festival Day. Big Heart's Project O, which is an audio diaries project with teenage girls, and RNZ's Widows of Shahada, which is following 4 women in the aftermath of the Christchurch attacks. It's a really wonderful project, and I'm excited to hear from the makers of all of those podcasts, lifting the hood on how they make their stuff. There'll be workshops. So on Festival Day, you can pick one and follow along in your own workspace. We're really excited because you're all going to be where you make your podcast anyway. You can set up different things and be working on your own computers with these workshops. So Erin Kian on podcast accessibility, Audiocraft Selena Shannon on workflow and project management for narrative series, Anita Mikalski on how to do a tape sync and then use Hindenburg to make it sound like you're in the same space and make your tape sync sound really good. Recording things remotely and editing them together is something that we've all become really good at in the last few months. So excited to have that as part of the program. And RNZ's White Silence team, which you can see next to me, they're doing a workshop on making old stories new again. So researching and using archival material. We have provocations on the theme of risk from Slaughterhouse Road's Jessica Hamilton, Broccoli Content's Renee Richardson, Marley Silver from Always Was, Always Will Be Our Stories, and the ABC's Sarah Dingle. So they'll all be rethinking and thinking about how we think about risk in audio stories and in the audio industry in general. Who takes risks? How do we take risk? And then all the people that we've convinced to be awake in the wrong time zone, who I'm excited about. Nancy is coming. So Kathy Tu and Tobin Lowe from Nancy are going to talk to Benjamin Law about telling queer stories in audio form and sort of making audio magic and how they put Nancy together. I'm really excited. These guys have agreed to stay up very late for Americans and be part of Festival Day. And I'm really excited to hear how they make that show. Becky Ripley and Timothy Attack are the creative team behind BBC audio eco-thriller Forest 404. It's a really wonderful audio drama. It uses sound in such a wonderful, fascinating way. And they're going to be talking about finding story through sound. So thinking about ways that sound itself can help push the plot forward and how you can use sound to create story. Matt Lieber from Spotify is going to be joining us as well for Festival Day. So Matt's going to be talking about the history and power of audio. Listeners to Startup will know Matt Lieber really well as the co-founder of Gimlet Media, and he's now the head of podcast operations at Spotify. So he's someone that we're really, really excited to hear from and to hear him talk about the audio industry and all the exciting things that are happening. And a very special guest who we actually have a video from. So this is someone who we had hoped to bring to Australia in real life, bring her back to Australia in a triumphant blaze of glory. But instead, she's going to be joining us virtually, which is just as good, I think. And I've got a video from her. She's going to say hi.
Hey, my name is Wendy Zuckerman and I'm the host of Science Versus from Gimlet Media. I am currently quarantining in New York City. This is my very green background behind me. There's some birds. I've been spending a lot of time looking at those birds. And I am going to be presenting at Audiocraft this year and I'm so excited about it. I would have loved to have been there, but I obviously can't be. So I am going to be talking about what it's like to be reporting on the coronavirus in the middle of what has become the epicenter, I guess, and what it's like to be trying to report the facts accurately when science keeps changing and the things that people care about keep changing faster than you can bounce out a mix. I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm going to see you virtually very soon. Thanks. Bye.
So thank you, Wendy, for that video, and also for being part of the festival. We're really happy to have her here virtually, taking to the virtual stage at Audiocraft on July 25. And today we're also announcing that Pitch Perfect is going to run for a second year. So if you were at the festival last year, you might remember this is the session where we had people pitch us their podcast ideas, and then they took to the stage and they would live pitch to a panel of experts, people who commission podcasts, and give them feedback in real time. And in watching that session, we also get a really great insight into what a good pitch is. So as well as strengthening those ideas, all of us in the audience learn as well. At this time, we're running it with Spotify as our lead partner. So running the session with a team from Spotify fielding your pitches. And I've got Leah Harris from Spotify here to talk to me about the session and talk to me about what she looks for in a pitch so that you can think about your own pitches. I'm just going to bring her onto the stream. Hi, Leah.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me. So Leah Harris is a podcast producer at Spotify Australia and New Zealand, where she focuses on developing out original podcast content for the audio streaming platform Spotify. And she's here to chat about what Spotify are looking for in a podcast, because we're running Pitch Perfect again. So you'll be able to head to our website and fill out a short form with your idea and potentially pitch it to Leah and the team from Spotify at the festival. So Leah, thanks for being part of our launch.
No worries.
What do you look for in a pitch?
Oh, big question. I mean, there's a good handful of things I look for. Firstly, I look for hosts, producers, creators that have a really genuine passion for the topic that they want to explore. Why have they chosen this topic as the subject matter for the podcast, or what background do they have, or what background are they willing to uncover or willing to explore? It kind of goes without saying, I'm looking for something unique. Does the content idea exist already? Has it existed before? And why is now the right time for this content? A huge one is, why Spotify? Have they really considered why their idea is good for Spotify, good for the Spotify audience? Generally speaking, our audience skews younger and more diverse than other listening platforms. So how might an idea tap into that existing audience that's already on our platform? I always like to see if someone has identified content gaps, especially in our local slate as we start to build that out, but also what's in the Australian New Zealand podcast landscape that we could look to fill. And then lastly, Spotify itself is very innovative. We're a very passionate and collaborative bunch. We're always doing testing and learning and coming up with all sorts of ways to do things. And I always look for people that get that, really take that on board and want to come on a wild podcasting journey with Spotify.
We've just got a link to Pitch Perfect in the comments as well. So if anyone wants to click and see the stuff that we're asking you to fill in, the questions that we're asking before you sort of get to the podcast, to the stage, the Pitch Perfect stage, you can click on that link in the comments. Are you hearing from a lot of people who are pitching their podcast ideas in, a lot of Australian, New Zealand podcasters reaching out to pitch their ideas at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. That's been great, especially relevant now that we have launched our first original last week with Search Engine Sex. But it's been amazing to connect with all sorts of people. Like, I speak to audio veterans that have been hanging out in the industry for 20, 30 years, but also getting to speak with a whole bunch of new talent and producers and creatives coming through, some who have never considered podcasting, and being able to kind of explore that creative side with people is pretty cool.
And when they're reaching out, what are some of the common mistakes people make that we can avoid as pitchers ourselves,
There's a few. I think one that just really stands out is that people don't drill down into who their audience really is and how their idea will get that audience to press play and keep listening. We see a lot of pitches with a 1 or 2 sentence line to explain their audience, and it's mostly, this will appeal to everyone. But we really need to see that the audience is considered and cared for, and that's always going to come out in the content. And then I guess another one is I really need people to know their format. Really need to hear that idea come to life. And of course that could come to life in an audio trailer, but always like to see a brief episode structure, where the series might go, what style of music or sound design, what does it feel, sound like, really using a storytelling approach to pitch to me around how this podcast is going to work out on platform.
And are there formats and genres and topics, anything that you're looking for in particular at the moment?
Definitely. There's a good focus of mine is looking at kind of always on formats, or how can a show have a life beyond the first season? It's not to say that we're not looking for that brilliant idea that has a limited run and makes a really big, amazing splash about an incredible story. But a really big focus of ours is to grow hosting talent, producers, production agencies alongside Spotify as we grow in the Australian New Zealand market. And then I guess I always just want to hear from uniquely Australian New Zealand voices. We're commissioning stuff for our local audience on a platform that's free and available anywhere, anytime. So I get a kick out of that. That's such a privilege. But we also have the opportunity to put local voices out onto an international audience, and our team behind that is rearing and ready to go to do that for our Australian creators.
And what's exciting you about Australian New Zealand audio at the moment?
It's that, isn't it? There's a huge appetite for podcasts among our Australian New Zealand audience, but there's also millions of untapped ears that haven't been listening to podcasts yet on the Spotify platform, and I'm obsessed with them. How can we get these millions of people listening to the great stories that our community is making? And I think about this every day. I'm really pumped because at Spotify we're able to provide that platform for local creators to reach all these millions of other people, but also the international audience. So that makes me really excited.
That makes me excited too. Thanks so much for joining me, Leah. And I'm really excited to have you as part of Festival Day. So thanks for agreeing to be part of that as well.
Nice one. Thank you.
Thank you. So thanks to all of you for joining us for the launch today. I guess the part of the program that I haven't talked about is all of you, because Hopin is a platform that we've been exploring for the last little while and playing with the edges of what it can do. And the thing that it allows us to do is for the audience, the attendees who are coming to the festival, to run their own meetups or skill shares or, audience run sessions. So it's something that we did a little bit in person last year, but there's going to be ways for you to do that on Festival Day this year. So if you've got an idea for a meetup or a group you want to organise, you'll be able to do that. There'll be a session over around lunchtime on Festival Day where you can run your own meetups. There's also a networking area where you can turn your video and your microphone on and enter this room and get matched with a different audio maker every 3 minutes. So it's just like being at a real party, but you'll have a new audio friend every 3 minutes, and it's a really great way to meet other audio makers and hopefully get that sort of connection that you might get by coming to Audiocraft any year. So please go and grab your tickets to Audiocraft now. It's on July 25. The tickets are live. Our website should be have the schedule being updated. The links to the tickets are in the comment sections on Facebook, so you'll be able to head there and find those links really easily, or head to the Audiocraft website, audiocraft.com.au, and check out the festival page. You can catch up on all those speakers that I kind of reeled off. You'll be able to see all their beautiful faces there. There's 2 ticketing prices. So there's a $50 ticket and a $20 ticket, and they both get you the same thing. And so the $20 concession ticket, what we're saying is that we really encourage anyone who's been impacted financially by COVID-19 or any of the strange things that are happening at the moment. If you feel like, that the $50 ticket isn't affordable for you at the moment, to buy one of those $20 tickets, because we really want everyone to be able to come we know it's a really tough time for freelancers and all sorts of people making audio at the moment. So please use that $20 ticket if you need to. And also if you're in another time zone, if you're watching this and you know that you'll be asleep for half of the festival, please also feel free to buy a $20 ticket to Audiocraft and just come when you're awake for the times of the day that your side of the world is awake, because we really welcome you there, and you'll get to meet all sorts of great Australian audio makers. Everyone in Australia who buys a ticket in the next week goes in the draw to win an Audio Technica Creator Pack. So that's a microphone, headphones, and a boom arm. And so if you buy a ticket, any of those tickets, next Friday morning we'll pull out a winner and let you know if you've won that. So there's an incentive. Go get your tickets tonight before you forget. Put July 25 in your calendar. And reach out if you have any questions. We'll answer them in the comments on YouTube and Facebook on this video. But also coming Jessie at audiocraft.com.au, or you can write to us in the comments and ask us any questions. Thanks so much for being part of the launch tonight, and see you at Audiocraft. Thanks so much, everyone.